Nope.
Hello, dear listener, and happy Halloween. For those of you who have not been tuning in for the past couple weeks, this is the finale of a 3-part story. And I guarantee if you don't listen to parts 1 and 2, you're going to be scratching your head wondering what the hell is going on. So, even though they're long, I suggest you go back and listen to parts 1 and 2 before diving into this one. But to those of you who have caught up and have done your homework, sit back, relax, and enjoy the finale, too. This new luxury hotel has a set of rules on how to stay alive. I made it. I'm alive. But as crazy as this may sound, it was the devil himself that saved me. Well, sort of. Allow me to start explaining. According to the doctors, I was pronounced dead on the scene when paramedics arrived. I've been in the hospital for over a week now, asleep for most of it. But now that I have the energy, I can finally get back to you guys. With some effort, I did manage to fall asleep, but I somehow awoke to the sound of my name being called. The voices were once again coming from the window, but they were much louder. Sometimes they were soft, curious even. They would call out to me in murmurs, no more than a whisper. Thankfully, the curtains were still closed from last night. The sobbing in the bathroom turned into agonizing moans. It was the voice of a woman crying over and over again. "It hurts. Please. I need air. Please." I broke down again, shedding tears that seemed to be endless because it was all so much. It was just too much. I'm a bit of a crybaby, you see. I was never the brave one, according to my father, always reminding me that I was a woman now, and that I needed to face my fears head on if I wanted to go anywhere in life. Though I don't think either of us would have ever predicted something like this would ever happen. So I like to think he would have given me a pass this time for acting out. I think at some point I asked the voices to stop, to just go away and leave me alone. As if acting in defiance, they only got louder, and the sobbing in the bathroom turned into panic cries for help. As if on cue, there was a knock at the door. The timer on my phone displayed 11 p.m. Yes, I neglected to shut it off again before falling asleep. That was a poor mistake on my part. A voice called out from the hallway. "Room service, Miss Moores." He knocked again when I did not respond, louder and with more force. "Hello? Miss Moores? You did order room service, right?" Yes," I answered shakingly, thinking back to rule number 4. I forgot to mention that I went over the rules again before taking that long nap. I even folded them up and kept it in my pocket in case I needed them again. What did you bring?" "The usual, miss." "Don't open the door. If he tells you anything else, tell him to leave it by the door." I kept my mouth shut, even holding my breath for the most part. After a minute or so, I thought he was gone, but he knocked again and continued calling out to me. "Hello? Is everything okay? Do you need me to come in and put it down for you? Miss Moores?" He knocked one more time, but a moment of silence followed before. "Please, let me in." I hiccuped, A strong urge came over me to actually open the door. He sounded desperate, helpless. He reminded me of a previous encounter I had with my young cousin during a time when he came to visit us one year for Christmas with my uncle and aunt. He had a nightmare his first night over and came to my door, begging me to let him in to stay the night in my room. I felt sorry for the bellboy, or at least the thing behind my door. You can leave it by the door," I managed to say, and after another beat of silence, I heard something being placed on the floor, followed by footsteps leading itself away from the room. I waited for some time before limping over to the entryway, taking the risk of looking through the door's small peephole. He was gone. The dish was heavy, and inside contained nothing but raw meat, and I'm certain it was all expired due to the wretched stench that came from it. I almost threw up as I scrapped it into the trash bin, and yes, the smell unfortunately took up the entire room, making hell itself somehow just a little worse. I also disposed of the silver platter it came from, covering the bin using Trina's bedsheets to try and mask the smell, which really didn't help at all, but it was better than nothing. The phone rang not long after I got back into bed, and she was screaming. The woman on the other line was now screaming, and it was loud. I had to pull the phone away from my ear when she did so, and in shock it even slipped out of my hand onto the floor. Rule number 21. The phone will ring for you, and you will once again hear the woman at the front desk. One of two things might happen. She will either give you instructions to follow like last time, or you will hear her scream bloody murder. If the latter happens, I'm sorry. It felt as if a stampede was making its way down the hall and towards my room. The screaming got louder and more apparent along with it. I whimpered and practically dove myself back onto the bed where I left the little box, the gift that the stranger behind the rules left for me in case of an emergency. I also forgot to tell you in my last update what it was. Sorry about that. Inside the box was a small gold coin, along with a single sheet of paper neatly folded up behind it. Inside the sheet was written, "Consume when necessary," in very blotchy letters. I don't even think they used ink to write it. My hands fumbled with the thing before I finally got it in my mouth, and the moment I swallowed, she finally burst through the door. The sight was absolutely maddening. Her jaw was dragging itself on the floor, all four limbs much longer than her thinly clothed torso, perching the body off the floor as it crawled over to me with great speed. Its screams turned into an ear-piercing screech as the ground shook wildly. And then I woke up. I was in bed again, tucked in safely as if nothing had happened. My body was covered in sweat, and a heavy gasp escaped me the moment I sat up. The voices behind the windows had ceased, and the wailing from the bathroom had also seemed to disappear. The only thing that remained from before was the smell, and that time I actually did throw up because of it. Everything seemed to fall completely silent afterwards. It was unsettling how quiet it was. The only thing that could really be heard was heavy breathing and my rapid heartbeat. That woman, there was no trace of her whatsoever. It was as if she was never there. her horrifying disfigurement, the screaming. It all still haunts my dreams, and will probably do so for a very long time. Whatever was in that box, it saved me. Or at least, I think it did. It clearly did something nonetheless. I only had so much time to rest before I needed to follow the next rule, but at least it was enough to find my now useless temporary water bottle ice pack. I managed to take a couple of sips from it. It helped just enough to clear my head, even easing some of my trembling from my sweaty palms. The bathroom light came on without warning, but this time there was no sound of a toilet flushing or the sink running. Rule number 9. If the lights come on suddenly, you need to make your way into the bathroom, look into the mirror, and tell your reflection, now's not the time, maybe later. If the lights go out again, you are fine. If they don't, ask your reflection, what time should we meet again? If your reflection responds, thank it, and only take your leave when the light finally goes out. My ankle throbbed as I limped over to the bathroom. It felt so much worse the longer I was on it, but through pure adrenaline, I still managed to get around well enough to do whatever needed to be done, at least during certain moments. The mirror never lies. That was made certain the moment I saw my own reflection. My hair was stringy. The mascara and foundation I had applied days ago, streaky and absolutely horrid. I barely recognized myself. Clearing my throat while also straightening myself out, I repeated the words written. Now's not the time. Maybe later. I was never the talker, not to mention someone who would talk to themselves, in the mirror no less, so it felt really strange. It was not normal. At least when you're not giving yourself a motivational speech normal. Nothing happened. The longer I stood there, the more uneasy I felt. Standing there covered in sweat, and looking at someone who would normally have smooth makeup on, even on off days. It was unnerving and a little bit humiliating considering the sorry state I was in. With a breath, I reluctantly continued. What time should we meet again? It took me 2 tries to say that, knowing very well that at some point my reflection was going to respond, and nothing could have ever prepared me for that. She smiled. She laughed. She cried. It was a wave of emotions happening all at once. I don't know how else to describe it. It almost looked like she was glitching, and with every glitch showed a different emotion. Every emotion I have probably ever felt. At some point, she finally settled back to a neutral expression, completely ignoring the mortified look I was giving her. Then, she ever so slowly started tilting her head, tilting it to a normal degree, almost as if curious, until it just snapped. An unsettling crunch echoing off the walls as if her neck snapped in the most unnatural position. She bared a smile, wider and higher than anyone's cheekbone could ever handle. Her pupils dilated to the point that they were almost too small to see. I screamed, and she began to say something. I don't know what it was. It was unintelligible. Demonic. It sounded nothing like me. I fell to the floor, screaming louder and louder the longer it stared at me. watching my every move, laughing. I backed into the tub, doing something to my ankle that had me screaming for a whole different reason. It continued to laugh at me, and the light started flickering rapidly. "Shut up! Shut up!" I screamed at it over and over again. "Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!" I covered my ears. I closed my eyes. I just wanted it to go away. I wanted the thing to leave me alone. It wasn't me. It was a monster. I don't know what it was. It did eventually grow quiet when the light stopped flickering, my own shameless shrieking being the only thing making any sound in the small restroom. I slowly uncovered my ears, opening my eyes, blurry and sore, and looked back up to my reflection once again, somewhat back to normal, with a neutral expression. We stared at one another, and I'm sure I looked much worse by that point than whatever was staring back at me. It was waiting for something, and I wasn't sure what, until I remembered the final step to the rule. My throat was hoarse, dying, and unforgiving, but I managed to get enough breath and sound out to say it. "Thank you." And just like that, the lights flickered off. It was cold. I was alone once again. Slowly, I started to get up, realizing that the stuff I tossed in the tub was no longer there. My belongings were all gone, and I still don't care where they are. I'm never going back to find out either. Shutting the door to the bathroom, I started limping back over to the bed, shaken and soiled. I felt so heavy, so helpless. Someone started knocking on the front door. The bellboy asking if I liked the meal. I nodded and responded, and whatever I said thankfully worked, because he did not come back. I fell on the bed, feeling gross and absolutely defeated. My cell phone remained by my bedside. I think it's been there since the moment I woke up in bed, and looking at it, ignoring several missed calls and voicemails, I saw that it was just a little over 2 in the morning. And knowing that, I nodded off. Looking back on it now, it definitely was not the smartest thing to do. But I had already messed up several times at that point, and I had convinced myself that screwing up one more time would not necessarily hurt. And if it did, something was bound to put me out of my misery. Another knock at the door woke me up with a start, the noise heavy and demanding. I had to pull my second note out again to remember the man looking for his hat, or what was supposed to be him. When I opened the door, no one was there, and gritting my teeth, I limped my way over 2 doors down as instructed. Before my hand made contact with the door, I remembered considering the distance between this room and my own, and how much more difficult it was going to be to run back in the poor state my ankle was in. So, to give myself more of a head start, I positioned myself as far away from the door as possible, but still close enough to knock. Not a very comfortable position, but it was all I could think to do to handicap myself. So I knocked 3 times before quickly asking whoever it was behind the door to stop knocking on my own door, and to contact the front desk if they really needed anything. I did not stick around to hear the footsteps, limping away as soon as possible. But I was not fast enough. Just a couple of steps away from my room, I heard the door behind me creak open, Something, in a very loud and sudden voice, called out, "Hey!" from behind me, before they followed suit. Before I shut the door, a hand blocked the entrance, and I saw a pair of angry eyes staring back at me. It was a very heavy-set looking man. His shirt, from what I could see in the pitch-black darkness of the hallway, was covered in stains of unknown. His boxers, one size too small for him. I mercilessly continued to try and push the door closed despite this, going so far as to throw my body against it as he swore in pain, his anger only worsening the more effort I put into my weakened strength.
"What the hell are you doing? Why are you knocking on my door so late? Bitch, if you wanted it so badly, you could have called or something."
The hand somehow managed to get a chunk of my hair and pulled it hard. My head hit the wood of the doorway, and I screamed for him to let go, but his boisterous demands easily overpowered my own. Instinctively, I continued to pull away like a trapped animal, successfully yanking my head away hard enough to break free, but losing chunks of hair in the process. I slammed the door shut then, locking it for extra measure, before the man started pounding heavily against the wood. I was certain the door would break, even with my body pressed firmly against it. But he eventually gave a final angry growl before storming off. I could hear his door slam shut, flinching as it did. More silence came soon after. I slumped to the floor, reaching up to feel a certain bald spot on the right side of my head. It didn't feel too serious, but it still burned to the touch, sore and weak like the other parts of me. A bit of blood also painted the tips of my fingers. I'm not sure if it was mine or the man's, or at least what looked to be a man. I'm guessing I blacked out at this point because I don't remember anything happening after that. But I do remember hearing another damn knock at the door, and I had to crawl out of the fetal position I put myself in to look through the peephole. It was the little boy. Not the little girl and the little boy. Just the little boy. There was nothing about that in the rules, so I did not open it. The knocking continued, but they were persistent. He knocked and knocked. I covered my ears again and bit my lip from saying anything, not wanting to draw attention. I didn't know what to do, but what I did then was clearly the wrong move, because the door behind me unlocked itself with a faint click and began to slowly open. My weight wasn't good enough this time. The door opened all the way, wide and bearing. We stared at one another, and I noticed he held something in his hand. It was Trina's cell phone. "Where did you get that?" I asked without realizing what I said, but before I could regret it, he held it behind his back. "You'll only get this back when you help me find her." What? He started to walk away, and I watched as he got further and further down the hallway, all the way up until he rounded the dark corner. Did he mean Trina? Did he know where she was? I missed her, but I wasn't ready to do anything that would put my life on the line again. I didn't want to know what was behind that corner, nor did I want to know what he actually meant by her. But of course, the door refused to budge. It didn't even make an effort to close, no matter how hard I pushed. I think I tried bargaining with it at some point, I'm not sure, but it didn't work either way. So, I followed. I took my time, hesitating when I got near the door across from my neighbor. Everything seemed to darken the further I went, and by the time I neared the corner, a door slammed shut behind me. Turning around, I had absolutely no idea anymore which room was mine. The room numbers, they were just gone. Fear had its way with me once again, and I found it difficult to move from my current spot. I did not want to. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to die. I couldn't. Not there. Well, I didn't, as you've noticed, but I almost did. Something behind me made a noise. I don't know what noise, but when I turned around again, it was the bellboy. It looked like a bellboy, except he was very, very tall. I couldn't make anything out but the brightness of the uniform. Whatever it was, whoever it was, started approaching me, and making one final effort to get away, I ran. I ran as fast and as capable as an injured ankle would let me. Around the corner was another hallway, a longer one, and around that one was another, and then another. They didn't seem to end. I'm still amazed by how far I got before I finally spotted the young boy again. Only this time he was in the elevator, and the doors were starting to close. I screamed at him to wait. I begged for him to keep the doors open. But he just smiled. A smile far more unsettling than his sister, but one very similar to the thing in the mirror. A hand suddenly then squeezed my shoulder and spun me around, leaving me face to face with the bellboy. It had no face. Its fingers were long and claw-like. I could no longer scream. I couldn't make a sound. The thing bent down, bringing its head closer to mine. A sound came out of it, one resembling a human voice. A few of them. It spoke no louder than a whisper. So warm. So soft. Please, let me in. And then it opened up. Its mouth, I mean. Or at least I think it was a mouth. Something small, tiny spider-like beings began to crawl out. Thousands of them. The hand holding my shoulder kept me in place, and those things started crawling all over me. In my mouth, my ears, my nose. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't do anything. I'm certain a few of them managed to get under my eyelids and fingernails as well. And, as you can imagine, the pain was absolutely unbearable. I never want to feel that way again. Then something else was pulling me back, away from the bellboy. It dragged me across the floor, into what I think now was the elevator, but I'm still unsure of where it brought me. High-pitched screaming, a sound similar to the woman on the phone, could be heard from the bellboy's direction. I remember the vibrations of the floor, and even the walls around me. But whatever was dragging me, it brought me to a place that kept me far away from whatever chaos it left behind. Something sharp entered my back, and instantly I could feel again. I could breathe. I could hear, and somehow I could even see. I could scream. Something covered my mouth as I tried backing away. A hand. It was difficult to make out my surroundings. I still can't tell you exactly where I was. I genuinely don't know. But I did recognize the familiar faint smell of that rotten meat. It spoke to me, harshly pulling out whatever it used in my neck. "I'm sorry. That wasn't part of the deal. What just happened to you, I mean." I wanted to say something, but the hold on my mouth only tightened. It was a man's voice. Nothing like the bellboy, and nothing like the man 2 doors down. He sounded normal. The heat emitting from his hand felt normal. I think it was an actual person that saved me. "I can't tell you too much, but those rules I left for you, everything you need to know was on there. However, they deviated from their normal behavior. Their normal routine, I should say. Despite this, you did everything right, so I'm going to let you go." Of course, everything I heard is paraphrasing what I recall him saying. I still don't understand what he meant by part of the deal, or how whatever those things were didn't stick to protocol. Was this some kind of test? Is this hotel some kind of experiment? Again, more questions, and I have been given 0 answers. I don't know what he did to me after that, but according to the nurse, she said that I was found in my room, unconscious, and that they only found me when a maid came in to clean. My parents were called, of course, and they flew in to take care of me. They're staying in a motel close to the hospital, and thank God for that. I haven't told them what happened. I know no one will believe me, but that doesn't stop them from trying to get me to tell them. After some thought, I've decided that this is something I'll be taking to my grave. I don't want to be admitted to a psychiatric facility. I don't need to. At least, I don't think so. Not yet. The nightmares are still there. I still see them. I can't even look at my own reflections without having some sort of panic attack. I really don't know what to do from here. Trina is still missing. Her mother has reached out to several local news networks to try and find her. Police have already came to question me, and unfortunately, I am a suspect to her disappearance. Her mother refuses to speak with me, and according to my own mother, she blames me for everything that's happened to her daughter. Trina is my best friend. I would never hurt her, and it breaks my heart knowing she thinks this way. I miss her so much, but I almost want to cry, not because of her disappearance, but because I actually managed to make it out of that hell alive. I'm sorry if I'm not the hero you wanted me to be. The one who tells you that everything is fine now, and that I'm going back there to try and find Trina and save her. No. I'm never stepping foot in that place again. I can't. I'll lose whatever sanity I have left if I even look at that building again. Oh, I also went and found their website. All of the reviews are a perfect 5 out of 5 stars. Nothing from anybody reviewing about the hell that happened to me. I just can't wrap my head around that. I can't be the only one who has been through this. I tried to leave a review of my own as well, but before I could submit, the whole site glitched and kicked me out. I tried several times, but the same thing would happen. I'm on the brink of crying just thinking about it. Please, if you've also experienced this, reach out to me. I just can't be alone on this. I can't be the only survivor. Right? Also, for those of you who have not even heard of this place, or at least thought about going, don't. I beg you, just please don't. I hope I sound like a broken record because I need you to listen to me and take my warning very seriously. I'm not sure if the hotel will find my story on Reddit, but on the chance that they do, please spread this to as many people as possible. I'm still quite exhausted after all of this, so I'll be resting here for a few more days. The doctor has been giving me medicine to help the pain in my ankle, but I don't want to take them. The doctor, he sounds like the man who saved me. I don't want to trust anyone who has come from that place, even the savior who supposedly got me out of there. I don't want to die. I don't want anything to do with that hotel. I just want to go home. Once again, thank you for hearing me out. I know it's long, but thank you. And Trina, if you somehow ever read this, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the Halloween 2020 special. If you did, I need you to absolutely destroy that like button, and also leave a comment down below saying RIP Trina. I mean, it sucks that you're gone, but you should have listened to the rules. You might have made it. Shout out again to the author of this story, Reddit user PinkFever19, aka She Talks A Lot 20 on Instagram. Links down below. Thank you again for letting me read your amazing story. I had a really good time with it, and I think it turned out to be a pretty damn good Halloween special, if you ask me. Everybody, happy Halloween. No matter what you're choosing to do tonight, whether you are going out or staying in, just be sure to stay safe. Like I always say, stay hydrated if you're drinking. And, have a DD, have a designated driver no matter what you do. If you stay in, don't answer the door for anybody you don't know, because damn it, we've all seen the horror movies. We know better. But until next time, everybody, remember to stay safe out there. I'll be seeing you in the next video. Happy Halloween.